what don't you like about Trump, like especially?
I mean, the biggest issue is I think he's a massive character flaw. I think that he operates in a very un-American, unpatriotic manner. I don't think he has any respect for the institutions of the country or the Constitution or the rule of law or the peaceful transfer of power. These are like fundamental core American ideas that I have problems with. In terms of leadership, he's just an ineffective leader. He wasn't able to do anything on the border. He wasn't able to do anything in Congress. He wasn't able to do anything internationally, despite the fact that he tries to share credit for it. Like, he was a failure in every sense of the way in every single part of his administration. I think he's a bad leader and a bad person and a bad American.
Do you think he's a fascist? I think that's also kind of a narrative that's being spun around at the moment.
He has kind of like these super ultra nationalist tendencies, meaning this idea that America can be an autarky, that we can tariff the rest of the world, we can manufacture everything at home, that we should curb immigration, that we should curb, involvement in foreign affairs. That's kind of sad, considering that America was like the leader of the free world. We guaranteed, trade routes and everything to the rest of the world and traded with the rest of the world. That's kind of sad. And then I think that he's definitely autocratic, and that he wants to centralize as much power in the presidency, not even just the executive branch, but in the presidency as much as possible. We've gotten really disappointing new rules set in the United States, like that the president of the United States can never be convicted for a criminal charge, as long as he's like acting in a certain role in the president. Like, these new categories of absolutely criminally immune behavior that have never been defined before, I think is really sad. His incessant like bullying of every single person that doesn't agree with everything that he wants, like trying to get them bullied out of the party, making sure that everybody falls in line and supports his agenda 100%. Him trying to weaponize the Department of Justice by telling them to, send out fake letters to states saying that we found evidence of voter fraud, like stuff like this is all like autocratic behavior. I think it's really bad.
Do you think like your dislike for him is also kind of clouding that a little bit, or do you feel like that's based on facts?
Every single thing I say is based on facts. I've read more than any other conservative on the planet about any of these things. There's a reason why I've demolished every single person that has tried to confront me on any of these issues. They either don't know the facts or they willingly lie about them. But yeah, I mean, we dump into literally any single part of this. Leading up to the January 6th stuff, for instance, Donald Trump tried to tell his Department of Justice that he wanted them to send out fake letters to all the states saying that they found evidence of voter fraud. And even William Barr, who is a huge Trump fan, didn't want to do that. He gave an interview to the Associated Press basically saying that there was no evidence of voter fraud. And then he quits 2 weeks later on December 14th, just a few weeks before the next administration, which is pretty crazy. New people come in. Donald Trump tries to get them to also send out fake letters. And basically the only way that the DOJ is able to stop him is by telling him, Richard Donahue, I think, who was the acting deputy attorney general at the time, basically says, hey, like, if you want to do this and send out these letters or force us to do it, half your Department of Justice is going to quit on you. You're going to have a graveyard here for the last week or two in your administration. There is no equivalent on the liberal side of the weaponization of the DOJ in this manner at all, ever. It's just not even remotely close. Donald Trump has pardoned almost every single crony friend he's had that have covered for him in court, whether it's Steve Bannon or Roger Stone, who were literally obstructing congressional investigations into Donald Trump and then saying that they wouldn't squeal on him and then getting full pardons when they were charged with obstruction and contempt. So I mean, like, we got a million things, but it's not even close to, yeah. I think Trump derangement syndrome is real, and I think it happens on the conservative side where they basically make excuses for every single behavior that Trump engages in.
Fair enough. But aren't there also a lot of like Republican opposition against Trump too, though? It's probably not fair to just generalize that all Republicans support him, right?
Nope, there is no opposition to Trump. If you oppose Trump, you get destroyed. You can't. I mean, like, there's like Romney, maybe he's like the only one, but you basically have to fall in line. It's one of the biggest strengths that the Republicans have over the Democrats, is that the Democrats can show displeasure in leadership or displeasure in party people. On the Republican side, you're either MAGA or Trump will primary you. And he says it as much in every single speech. These are the good Republicans. These are the bad ones. If you don't like us, like,
well, sorry to interrupt, but doesn't that happen also on the Democratic side, right? Like, for example, there weren't open primaries this year and Kamala was essentially nominated. Everybody had to kind of like galvanize their support. Isn't that kind of just more so the effect of the polarization of parties at the moment?
No, like, for instance, like, Biden had a really bad performance and Biden was pushed out by the party. That would never happen on the Republican side. No matter what Trump says or does, he will never be pushed out by the party because Trump will destroy those people. So I would say that's the opposite. In terms of like whether there was an open primary or not, conservatives will never admit it, obviously, because they're not honest actors and they don't care. But to do an open primary at that point would have been incredibly spicy. People act like it would be such an easy decision. Like, oh, you should just have an open primary. And it's like a couple months really before the election. Like that, it would just be so crazy and so chaotic. Like, I could see there being arguments for an open primary. I could see there being arguments against open primaries or an open primary in that particular circumstance. I could even see an argument against even getting Biden to step down. Like, I think there are still arguments for maybe he shouldn't do it. Like, yeah, it was a very like chaotic time. So,
but do you feel like you need to push more against the crazy like left-leaning stuff, kind of like
No,
what you're
I think
doing,
that's
right?
stupid. A conservative has never in their life felt felt this obsessive need to like like I see everybody talking to the left like, are you guys don't you need to self-reflect? Don't you need to figure out what went wrong this election? Bullshit. What did the conservatives do after they lost their last election? Well, one, they don't even believe they lost it, and two, they literally nominated the same guy, the exact same guy who ran an even worse campaign. So no, the idea that like the left has to dramatically change their approach and all that. Nah, I don't think that's true. I think the
You
dramatic
don't think
change.
there needs to be any sort of reflection after a loss, though?
What did the conservatives reflect on?
I think they did a better job of in terms of utilizing independent media. I think a lot of independent media has also been welcomed more by the right too.
I do
So
agree with that, yeah, but that's goes into being more aggressive. What they've done better is the right's media sphere is a cult. Every single person on the right, every single centrist or independent or whatever media thing, all of them support the party. On the left, like a lot of our huge people on the left don't support the party. They don't support the candidate. It's very weird, right? Like it's kind of funny that I go on shows and it's like I'm an institutional shill because I actually get for like supporting the Democratic candidates in like this far left sphere. Like everybody will attack the candidate, but then you go to the far right sphere or the centrist sphere, right? And all these guys are massive Trump simps. Joe Rogan and Tim Pool and everybody at the Daily Wire and every single Stephen Crowder, all the right, the far right, the mid right, the whatever right sphere are all supporting the candidate. And on the left, there's like this huge coalescence of people that are like far lefties that hate the candidate, and that's not a good environment. Who are the mainstream left-leaning figures who are pushing everybody to support?
So for
Harris.
example, right, like if we're going to use the example of Joe Rogan, right, they recently had like that controversy where they kind of edited out his podcast clip to make it seem like he's supporting Kamala. Like that was a blatant lie. Or for example, during the whole COVID thing, when they, color graded him to make him look more sick, called ivermectin like a horse dewormer. Like what I'm trying to say is that both sides engage in this. I don't think it's an exclusively right issue.
Wait, hold on. You're talking about totally different things. I'm saying that on the right, if you're going to be in right media, you have to support the candidate. Full stop. Or your empire is destroyed. Your media company is destroyed. On the left, that's not the case. There are plenty of popular.
True? Well, that's
wait. Think of it right now. Like, give me a single right-leaning media entity that doesn't fully support Donald Trump.
I mean, look, I can't just like name someone off the top of my
head.
But,
but we can probably think of several people on the left, right? Hassan Piker is the largest streamer on Twitch, didn't really support the candidate. People from Bernie's administration like Brianna Joy Gray didn't really support the candidate. Crystal Ball from Breaking Points didn't really support the candidate. The Majority Report, both sides, do genocide, not huge support for the candidate. Like there's tons of like far left media and a lot of this far left media apparatus that doesn't support the candidate, right? It's not the same on the left and the right at all.
But do you think that has happened like every single election year over year? I think that's where I keep going back to my point of, do you think it's more so the candidate, right?
If I can show you articles that Matt Walsh and Ben Shapiro have written saying they will never vote for Donald Trump because of like how horrible his character and everything is, like his character didn't change in 4 years. Nothing changed about him in 8 years. Like the only thing that happened was they realized, this happened with Glenn Beck as well, it happened on The Blaze, is that people were like, hey, I don't really know how I feel about Donald Trump. And every single person on the right was like, oh, well, I'm not going to watch your media. Like that is what happened factually. Like that's the right. You can say, well, maybe all of them, every single person on the right just happened to all change their minds simultaneously and all agree that Donald Trump is actually a good candidate. They all, wanted to take back what they said before, but I find that incredibly unconvincing. I think it's far more likely that they just realize that on the right, you have to support the candidate or you have no future in media. The original claim they were talking about has to do with whether or not you have to support a candidate, basically. On the left, I've given you several large media entities that don't support the candidate. On the right, every single person, even centrists or whatever, all support the candidate. And to just say, well, I think that every single person has a really good reason for why all of them have to support the candidate, even when I've given you examples of people who didn't support the candidate and then got relentlessly bullied until they did, like Joe Rogan and like Kyle Rittenhouse, but you write all of it off. So I mean, like I don't think there's any way or anything I can demonstrate. Like nothing is more clear than the Rittenhouse example of like what happens if you try not to support Trump. You'll be destroyed by or the Fox News Dominion lawsuit. There's nothing more clear than that.
I agree with you in the sense that Kyle Rittenhouse was effectively bullied into like supporting Trump. But do you think that's the case for Joe Rogan?
Yes.
How so?
I think Joe Rogan came out and he was like, I really like this RFK dude. I'm not sure. Like maybe I would support him. He said it was a pretty tepid, lukewarm statement. And he got so much pushback from his audience who are all like Trump sycophants. Even other people in the mainstream media on the right were like, hey, I don't know if it's so good that you guys are all attacking Rogan like this. And then Rogan came out and basically made a statement saying, oh, no, guys, don't worry. I'm not saying I endorse RFK for president, guys, don't worry. Like, he had to come back and eat his words because he was getting so much over the top response about it. Like, it was insane.
Yeah, because and then there's also, you know, what happened with MSNBC, right? When they edited him out to make it seem like he's supporting Kamala. So he's probably also overly sensitive to things getting misrepresented. Just
none of that has any
like
bearing on what I just said. I'm saying that on the right, you have
what
to
I'm
support
saying
Trump. I'm not talking about MSNBC or CNN editing or anything. I'm saying that on the right, none of that made him support Trump. He has to
what I'm trying to
Trump.
do is provide context in the sense that there's probably that thought process too. That's why it's probably overly simplistic to just say that he just got bullied into it when, you know, media has misrepresented what he said multiple times.
Okay. You're just wrong. I mean, I really don't know what to say. Like, this stuff like drives me so crazy that the right can get away with so much insane behavior, and then people always make excuses where, well, the reason why Joe Rogan had to come out and 100% deep throw Donald Trump was because MSNBC edited a clip of him one time. Like, I don't know. I'm a man. I've never changed my political opinions because somebody said something mean about me like that. But then people make excuses for Joe Rogan to do this, and that's so crazy to me, right? I've had people lie about me on the left and the right. I've never thought like, wow, that guy said something mean about me. I'm gonna go and support a totally different candidate. Like, grow up. Like, what the that's just crazy to me that you would be so willing and easily ready to offer up that excuse for Joe Rogan. Like, maybe he had to be a 100% Trump sycophant because MSNBC posted a clip of him being too orange one time. That's crazy to me. That just doesn't make any sense in my mind.
I appreciate that, Destiny.
All right, bye.
Remember to hit that like and subscribe, and don't forget the notification bell so that my videos show up right in your feed.